In this clip, we want to look at utilizing the survey database. And we want to see the pros and cons of utilizing a survey database for importing points and survey data rather than just importing them manually into a file. So let's jump right into Civil 3D. And we're working still in our same file that we've been using for Module 1. And we have in this file the survey points that we imported earlier into the M1 database. Now I can open this thing for edit or open it read only just to take a look. And remember, in an earlier clip, we imported the M1 fieldbook file. Okay, so in importing that file, remember we generated all the line work automatically. Now we're going to import that same survey data once again just using the manual point import tool. So we're going to go to Points and Point Creation Tools, and we'll use this Import Points tool here. And we'll select a file called m1points.txt. Be sure to change the file type in the bottom if you need to do so, and import the M1 points. Now I know that this point file is in the format point, northing, easting, Z stands for elevation, and D for description, because I created this file based on the same points that are in our drawing back here. So I'm going to pick that format. I will go ahead and add points to a point group, and I'll call this point group import manual points. And I'll keep these unchecked for advanced options and just hit OK. And there are duplicate point numbers, and that's because they are the same points in the file back there. So I'm going to go ahead and just add an offset value of 10,000. And I'll apply to all duplicate point numbers. And there we go. So let's close that. And let's zoom in on this point here. And you'll notice we have 2 points on top of each other now. I'm going to drag the label. I will drag both of them off. And now let's take a look at the differences. Now they look exactly the same there in model space, but if we were to, I'm going to undock this properties palette and just leave that open right over here. Let's make it not auto hide. Let's click on our first point, 10,417, and see that it is a survey point. We can scroll down to data, and the survey point setting is set to true. Now that is a point that was created from our database import. If we look at the survey points in our database, we can scroll down to the 10,417, and there we go. There is that point. Okay. Now that point, the 2417, does not reside. If we scroll down all the way through the numbers, it does not reside in that database. We imported that as a manual point. If we click it and we look in the properties palette, you'll see the survey point says false. Now next we'll look at how we can actually manipulate this point right here local in the file, the new one that we manually imported. So you'll see that I can move that just by picking up the marker and moving the point. The other point we are not able to move. So by default, the database survey points are locked. Even though it says lock point false, it is locked because it's a survey point. Now I can unlock those points if I need to by, in the survey database, right-clicking on survey points and hitting unlock and drawing. And I can unlock them, make some edits, and then update the survey database, but typically you won't be doing that. So let's look back at the original point and the survey point. And let's just grab both of those. We'll right click and hit Edit Points. Now Panorama has popped up, and we'll notice when we scroll over here that we have our 2 points, and you see 2 different icons here. This icon indicates a survey point, whereas the other indicates a manual import point. They do have slightly different northings and eastings since I manually moved the point. Everything else is the same. You'll also notice that in the raw description and the point number, northing, easting, they are white, meaning that I can edit that. I can edit that raw description right here in the file. Okay, so I am able to edit the values of the manual imported point, but I am not able to edit the survey point. The only thing that I can really do with that survey point is drag the label around. I can rotate the label, unless I go in and manually unlock that. Okay, so the other thing important to note, let's go ahead and dock this back over again and dismiss the panorama view. The other important thing to note is what we talked about before, in that the points imported from the survey database are able to have automated line work generated, whereas you should have noticed that that option was not available when we imported manually. And there's really no option to go back now and generate that line work just by those manual points. So let's end this clip with just a quick rundown of the differences between the points with the survey database and without. So with the survey database, we have a master location to share and control that survey data for multiple users and multiple files. Whereas without the survey database, once you pull the points in to the file, they really only live inside that file. They do still live in that text file we use to import, and you can bring that into multiple files, but it's a little bit more uncontrolled. The points with the survey database are locked by default. The points without are unlocked by default. You can still lock those points without the survey database by manually locking them with options. With the survey database, it's a little bit slower to generate the points in the drawing. It was a little bit quicker for us to do it without. If we were to have to create the database and then import the points into the database, that takes a couple of extra steps. So with the survey database, we can also utilize multiple coordinate systems, and we can do coordinate transformation and scaling of points where we can't really do that without the survey database. They're really only going to use the currently set coordinate system, no transformation really when you import them. And the very, very important thing is the line work generation. You're not able to do that without the survey database. Now we were able to use the description keys for either way. We'll talk about description keys a little bit more later, but that was that manhole symbol that did come in as a manhole, whether it was imported with the database or without. So let's end it there, and when we come back, we'll talk about survey figures.